Going down sourdough squad. How are we doing today, guys? I think we're gonna have a spicy episode today. I think today's gonna be a spicy sourdough type of day. I think today's gonna be one of those spicy enchiladas type episodes today. So we got some stuff spiced up. We got some stuff spiced up. Again, you can see it in the chat. We already got people chirping your boy. It's all good. Come on in. Welcome. It's going to be a spicy episode today because, of course, we had a little bit of a false alarm. We had a little bit of a false alarm on this particular topic regarding Alex Mack. So we'll get into all that. We'll talk about it. And we'll talk about where it went wrong and how we get back on track. We also got a lot of information coming from guys like Steve Young. We heard from Steve Young talking about this particular topic of Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, and he gave some pretty good insight. So we're going to talk about that. Some other things that we are going to talk about. We're going to talk about some stuff with the rookies. We're starting to get a couple of sound bites and clips from some of the rookies from the 49ers media team. We actually talked about this, I think, yesterday or the day before, about how just give them some time. They're going to be getting some stuff out, and they got some of that content out. So we'll be able to talk about some of that. And we'll talk about all that good. So let's talk about the little false alarm that we had today. Let's talk about it because it's worth it. It's worth talking about. But as you guys know, I thought I saw Alex Mack, and the thought of thinking that I saw Alex Mack at the 49ers facility just got my blood pumping. I was really, really excited about it. And I'll pull up the image so we can look at it together. Here you go. Let's go right here. So now this image, in fact, is not Alex Mack. After I'd put that out, because I'd saw this image from one of the undrafted free agent players had posted to a story, and it felt like it was intentionally showing. It was a boomerang. It felt like it was intentionally showing Alex Mack. And in fact, it's not Alex Mack. That's Daniel Brunskill. So my mistake, my apologies. That is 150% my fault. If you don't want to follow the content, if I'm a doofus and you just, oh, look at this ginger guy, that's fine. That's fine. That's totally okay. We all make mistakes. Things happen. When I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's Alex Mack, because I'm going to be honest. You know, I was looking at the body type. I was looking at the body type right here. You know, he got pretty thick looking arms. He had a little belly on him. And when I look at Daniel Brunskill, I look at Brunskill as more of like a slim guy, more slender, you know, things like that. And I was like, oh, that's got to be Mack. That I was like, the thought crossed my mind that it could be Brunskill, but I was like, that has to be Mack. It looks just like Mack, but it is not. I was informed from someone on the 49ers staff. One of my good buddies let me know. He's like, that's not Alex Mack. That's Brunskill. And I was like, well, thank you for letting me know quickly. So I was able to try to, again, re-report that, okay, this isn't, in fact, Mack. This is Brunskill. You even had Brunskill make a little comment about it. He said, dang, Alex Mack, my brother from another mother, hashtag twinning. And then you've got the Spider-Man pointing meme. You got me pointing to Alex and Daniel Brunskill looking identical. So again, it was an honest mistake. I think, you know, I was really excited. I was really excited about the fact I was like, oh my goodness, is that him? Is that Alex Mack the one we're trying to figure out? Is he back? Is he not back? Who's it going to be? Is he retiring? Is he not retiring? Because honestly, that is a huge question. We talk about it all the time on this channel. It's a conversation that is talked about 100%. 100%. This one didn't work out the way we had wanted it to. Obviously, I wouldn't go out of my way to knowingly put this out as, even though it like was Brunskill, like I would never knowingly put it out. I legit thought this was Alex Mack. I looked at it multiple times. I was like, that's Alex Mack. I was like, the body type, like the profile. I was like, that has to be Alex Mack. I was like, I've seen Brunskill and Mack enough times to know. I know. I mean, I'm good at profiles. I was like, it's gotta be. It's gotta be. I mean, it was unbelievable, but I was told that Alex Mack is not in the building. So I did get that piece of information. That one, hey man, that's not Alex Mack. That's Brunskill. Like, okay, my bad. And two, Alex Mack isn't in the building. So I got real excited, but you not only was I able to confirm that it's not Alex Mack, but also to Alex Mack isn't in the building. So my dreams were dashed. Maybe my credibility shot a little bit, but hey, I'll take it. Again, it wasn't done intentionally. I saw this. I thought like the context of the video was like, oh, look who's back. It's Alex Mack. Because I'm like, why would a undrafted free agent be showing Daniel Brunskill? No offense to Daddy B. No offense to Daddy B. But hey, it happens. And again, Brunskill had some fun with it. And then, of course, I meme myself to death by thinking that it was Alex Mack. But it is indeed not Alex Mack. Again, confirmed from a source inside the building. And also, too, that Alex Mack isn't in the building. So it would have been phenomenal. It would have been exciting to have Alex Mack back because, again, we just want to know. The underlying theme of it all is we just want to know. We just want to know, is Alex Mack coming back? Is he not coming back? And ultimately, that's what we want to know at the end of the day. But again, I will take full ownership of this particular one. I fumbled this one. I apologize again. If you never want to watch or engage with my content ever again over this, then I will completely understand. No hard feelings. Again, this is your one day where I will allow you to roast me into oblivion. So go for it. Because if I make a mistake, then you can let me know that I made a mistake because I try not to. I try to be very accurate. I try to be timely. I try to be effective, efficient, and accurate. So again, I didn't knowingly put out a video of Brunskill and trying to bamboozle everyone. And the second I found out it wasn't him, we reversed course. But hey, man, it happens sometimes. Cap says Brunskill needs to bring back the daddy stash. Yeah, for sure. The stash is legendary. Would definitely love to see that. I tried. I was like, I tried to rationalize it all. I'm like, oh, that the profile, the body. I was like, that's a thick boy. And I was like, Brunskill's a little light. But hey, man, it happens. It happens. And it is what it is. But again, if you don't want to deal with vibe with the content, I get it. I understand. But again, just like that situation, we now move on. The false Alex Mack report, I take full responsibility for. Again, not intentional. My apologies if I swayed you in the wrong direction and got you excited. Luke says Brad takes his first L. No, I've been doing this for I think I'm headed on like 4 years. I think I'm going on like 4 years now. This is definitely not my first L. So I knowingly will take my L. I will hold it. I will cherish it, keep it close to my heart, and ensure that I don't put me or you guys in this position again because I do know it got everyone excited, got everyone in a good spot. But hey, it's all good. It's all good. I do want to talk about this particular move, and we'll kind of go through and get to all the other points of emphasis on today's show. I'm sorry, man. I let you down. I let you down. I let myself down. I apologize. And I'm going to never do it again. I promise you. I promise you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. To all the SDS, I failed the SDS today. We had some sour SDS bread today. It's all good. We'll get it corrected. We'll throw out that batch. We'll get a new batch in. And guess what? Like yeast, we're going to rise. So it's all good, and I apologize again. But in some news, the San Francisco 49ers did sign veteran tight end Troy Fumagalli. And they also waived undrafted free agent tight end Garrett Walston. Uh, so when we talked about this particular tryout from the rookie minicamp, this was a name that I pointed out specifically as being a point of interest. I thought it was a little bit interesting that the 49ers had, I think, two or three veteran tight ends in for a workout. Obviously, it was all rookies, maybe a 1 or 2 year guy sprinkled in there at other positions. But this guy he's a former fifth round pick from the Denver Broncos. I think he's been in the league for about 4 years, 5 years, something like that. But they also had like an 8 year veteran in there as well. Uh, so I found it interesting. This was the name that popped out, and this is the name that the 49ers ended up signing. Someone had asked, can he block? He can block. And so this is why, to me, I think he has a shot at making the final roster. And when I say he has a shot at making the final roster, the 49ers typically carry three tight ends. As we know, the current three that are on the roster are George Kittle, Charlie Warner, and Ross Dwelly. Well, at one point, Ross Dwelly was the solidified number two tight end. You go back to 2019, 2020, Ross Dwelly had been getting better each and every year. Well, in 2021, especially when the San Francisco 49ers needed Ross Dwelly to kind of step up and play the Kittle role, he unfortunately uh, took a step back. So much so that he was eventually, uh, I guess, replaced by Charlie Warner. And then Charlie Warner took all the tight end two snaps. When it was a two tight end formation, Charlie Warner was the one that was coming in. And a huge reason why that was occurring was purely blocking, like Boomerat is talking about here. So Troy, he can block. I posted a clip on my personal showing him get to the second level and demolish a safety and get his butt on the ground. Interesting fact about Troy, he only has 9 fingers. So he only has 9 fingers. He's missing the index finger on one of his hands. I think he was born like that. But he was still in college, put up over 1,600 receiving yards as a tight end. Again, that's more than double the production of what Kittle put out over his career. So he's been productive as a pass catcher. He can and shows a willingness to block. So I think this is a direct, like, all right, Ross, because again, you're getting great cost control out of Charlie Warner, 6th round draft pick, still on his rookie deal. You're getting great cost control there. So not only with that cost control, with Charlie Warner, Charlie's proven to be a very reliable blocker, which I think we will only see more of. We will only see more two tight end sets with Trey Lance as the starter. So to me, this signing actually there is an impact, and the impact could be directly related to Ross Dwelly. I expected Ross. I jumped on the Ross Dwelly train in training camp. He looked bigger. He looked more athletic. Again, he's never been a speed guy. He's always been a solid receiving threat. And I thought he was a good blocker, but I mean, when you pull on the tape again, you can go back to the Arizona game and you can pull like 5 or 6 plays where Ross Dwelly single-handedly not only gave up touchdowns because of missed blocks, but just poor plays. So, and then after that game, that's when they made the transition to Charlie Warner, and then Charlie just never gave up the spot. And that's a testament to Charlie. Charlie and his development has been really fun to watch. But like I said, I think this particular move has more of a correlation to Ross Dwelly than anyone else because I think Charlie's chilling in that number tight end 2 spot. So we'll see. But um, it is interesting to see them add a veteran tight end who's has some stuff left in the tank. He has some stuff left in the tank. Yeah, he's the JPP of tight ends. Facts. Except it's not an self-inflicted wound. Luke Luna, shout out my boy Luke. Good to see you. He says the SDS ain't soft. You ain't lose a single. Shout out to all the real ones out there. Shout out to all the SDS. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. Shout out all my people. Appreciate you guys. I really do. Appreciate you. I know the real ones got my back. But so we started to get some content from the 49ers. We started to get some content from the 49ers. The 49ers posted a pretty cool little clip of Spencer Burford, the 49ers 4th-round draft pick out of UTSA. He told his draft story, and his draft story, near and dear to my heart. He was in the middle of ordering food. So he was literally ordering tacos. He was ordering tacos, and then he got a call from John Lynch. Um, and, as a former offensive lineman, it's always something with food involved around these guys. Like I don't know what it is. Obviously, big boys, but I just thought it was hilarious that he was in the middle of ordering tacos when John Lynch calls his phone and drafts him. He proceeds to get drafted by the 49ers, finishes his taco order, and it didn't come. Like, look at his face. Like, look at the pure look of just disgust. Like, you just got drafted by the San Francisco 49ers in the 4th round. Very respectable spot. And you just want some tacos. Like, that's it. You just want some tacos. And unfortunately, they never come. What a disappointment. Absolutely disappointment. Exactly. The boy couldn't even get his victory tacos, but luckily for Spencer, the Bay Area is loaded with phenomenal places to get Mexican cuisine. So he will be taken care of, I promise. Obviously, being where is he? He's probably going to be in Santa Clara, around Santa Clara. Not too far away. You can go down to La Vix. get himself some of that orange sauce to go with his tacos, and he can be welcomed to the light. I hear a lot of talk. Maybe La Vix is a little overrated, maybe a little too overhyped, which I think comes with the territory. With anything that is hyped, you're going to have people who are going to counter that. But there are so many other good places that aren't, again, uh, extremely well known. You're going to find little spots all over the place where you're going to be able to get some fire Mexican food. So it's okay. It's okay. It's okay, Spencer. He's probably real upset. You're gonna find some good tacos here in the Bay Area. I promise you. I promise you, it's gonna happen. Do not fret. Do not fret. Yeah, I did see what happened to Tarik. Terrible, man. Absolutely terrible. You never want to see that happen. Tarik is a guy that I really became to love, like in the scouting process. Like obviously, I'm big into dynasty football, so like Tarik Cohen was like a scouting prospect through dynasty fantasy football. Um, so he was a guy that he was a my guy. He's a guy that I really liked coming out of a small school, and I thought he was a phenomenal athlete. And so the fact that he again, if you don't know, he was doing a live workout uh, while on Instagram. He had his live going, and you just hear him. He's doing like a back pedal and then explode, and he goes to plant to explode out, and you just hear, like, you literally audibly hear his Achilles just pop, and you could see it on his face. I mean, I feel for the guy. I feel for any athlete that has to deal with that. And I think, maybe if you weren't an athlete and or like never had to experience a severe injuries like are so much more than just physical. There is an intense mental component that comes along with injuries that lasts way longer than the actual physical ailment itself. So Tariq was coming back from a ACL tear in 2020, just getting healthy, and likely popped his ACL. So again, he's free agent, not a 49er, but again, I feel for anyone that has to go through something like that. Like, you don't wish that on your worst enemy. Again, like, if I ever had an opponent and we were playing someone, or we had someone on the opposing team, I still wouldn't wish that on a rival, on the Seahawks. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Like, it didn't care if it's DK Metcalf, and he really bugs me sometimes. But overall, I would never wish an injury on anyone, even my most hated opponent. So I feel for Tariq big time in that particular situation. Mark says, if it was the Rams, I don't care. Hey, we understand. Some people are ruthless out there. It's okay. It's okay. Uh, it's absolutely okay. I'll take care of you, John. Don't you worry. So also, obviously, we had that situation with Burford. We also got to see a little bit of I made this little reel, but just wait. I don't want to play the sound because I don't want to get dinged for copyright. But we do get to see a little bit of Drake Jackson. Uh, Not too bad. So we started to get some content. I told you guys, just be patient. Just be patient. We'll get it soon. Uh, I had fun with this one a little bit earlier because with this list, the Lindsay of the uh, PFF put out this ranking of offensive tackles. Obviously, Trent Williams is number one, and why wouldn't he be? But also, I did have a thought about it. I was just like, man, like, yeah, he's number one, but he's so far ahead of all these other guys. Like, they have to like put like a line, like, yeah, he's number one, but number two just feels like there's such a big gap in between that. Um, shout out to Kyle, 49ers Kyle, because he did a little flick of his magic wand and he fixed the list for us. So now the list looks appropriate. Now the list looks correct. Now I feel much better about it. So shout out Kyle for correcting the list, because honestly, this is what it should look like. It's literally just Kyle. It's literally just Trent. Like, Trent is the best offensive lineman, not only offensive tackle, interior offensive lineman, like the best offensive lineman of the past decade. So it's just like he's got to be there, got to be up there. But I thought this was pretty funny. Shout out Kyle for putting that together. But I do want to talk about, and I want to listen and kind of go back and forth on Steve Young. I kind of want to go in on Steve Young a little bit. So my advice to you guys, like, if you ever like you feel like you're getting lost, if you're getting lost in the sauce with the talking points around the quarterback situation and like who to trust and like who to listen to, because again, we've had Joe Montana come out and say some things not too long ago, a couple months ago, that just felt a certain way. Like, it felt like there was almost some emotions put into it that maybe could have been lingering from his time as, the 49ers quarterback, because we know the 49ers traded Joe Montana. I got Joe right here. Like, they traded him from the franchise. Probably not probably doesn't have the best feelings about it. So the one person that I do trust when it comes to like the opinion of this particular situation is Steve Young. And if you go back to last year and you've listened to Steve Young at each like crucial intersection of the quarterback situation, he's been on point with everything. Again, he's been on point with, having Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo in the room at the same time. What would happen if you kept them? What the potential like pitfalls would be if you kept them on the same. He's been on point with everything up until this point. So I do just kind of want to go through some of what he said, because I think we talk about it so much here on this channel that I think it would be refreshing, to hear from someone else in this particular scenario, and be able to kind of talk about his thoughts and his points on this. So it is something that I want to listen to, and then I'll stop it along the way, and then we can kind of pop in and out of essentially certain points that he's getting to. So let's pull that up here, and we can listen along with Steve Young. Steve Young joined the Rich Eisen show to talk. He actually had a hilarious story about Mooch, but they, of course, asked him about Trey Lance. And so what we're going to do is we're going to listen to Steve Young on Trey Lance, and we're going to talk about some of the points that he makes along the way. Let me know if you guys can hear okay.
It seems to me that there's a whole legion of, Jimmy G hasn't been cut yet because there's a hedging of a bet, or the Niners aren't going to be any good next year because Lance isn't really ready. What are your 2 cents on the current Niners situation?
The idea, the word ready is just loaded. It's not right. Like, he's played 2 games, so he's not ready is an easy it doesn't mean anything because it's like, of course, who's ready? You know what I mean? Like, you got to go play and got to prove it out. One thing about
So we've talked about that. We have talked about that on this show, right? We have talked about the literal, like, when we hear he's not ready, and we hear it constantly and constantly over and over and over again, in the sense of Trey Lance isn't ready, so we can't put him out there. But what do we talk about? Like, when we go and discuss these talking points, the things that we talk about is like, how can he be ready? Like, shouldn't there be like a thought process that he has to play to be ready? Like, and he has to get experience, and he has to be able to do those things to get ready. Like, we've talked about that quite a bit. So it is interesting to hear Steve Young kind of say those same types of things, just like, again, kind of breaking apart the is he ready situation. So I find it to be interesting.
Trey, that everyone has to understand is that he has not played a lot of football, in general. And a lot of things that you figure out in college over the years is, just marking receivers and understanding what your arm can do and understanding, it's just things that just you figure out over by reps and doing it over and over. And it just, when they say he's not ready, it's because it's just, there's not that body of work of him being on the field. They see what's on the field, like amazing talent, amazing arm, all the things. But there's so much more to quarterbacking. So when someone says he's not ready, well, it's easy to say because he hasn't done it. But I think the more important thing is,
and I think right there is a huge point of emphasis for what we keep hearing in the media. It's so easy to say he's not ready because, again, it's not wrong. Like, is a 22-year-old who has only had 2 starts in the NFL ready to be a full-time, full-fledged top 10, top 15 player in the NFL? I don't know. We have to find out. We have to give him the opportunity. We have to allow him the op to go in and prove that to us and build towards that. Again, it is lost that I don't know why that this is a game of development. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. So if Trey Lance comes in and has some ups and downs, that should be expected. And how we're trying to judge him is if he learns and gets better from those initial bumps and bruises, just like we all are, just like we all deal with these types of situations in our own personal lives. Again, like I got to learn to not just look at a big offensive lineman who happens to be a white guy and say, oh, it's Alex Mack, because in fact it's Brunskill. We'll learn along the way. Maybe we're not going to be so quick to go out and post that's Alex Mack in the locker room. Maybe next time we'll take a breath. We'll send it to our people inside the building for confirmation, and then be able to kick out a report one way or the other. We learn. It's a learning process. It's a learning process. If you're not learning, then what are you doing? Then you're not like. So the whole ready thing, it's like, come on, man. We got to let the guy get out there. We got to show if he can do it. And if he can't, okay, well, how do we learn and teach and allow him to get better? Corey says, shout out the dude saying Becton is better than Williams. That's just slander. That's just slander. That's just slander at this point. Absolutely slander. Trent Williams is the GOAT. And you can't convince me otherwise. And this is a great point from Michael. How was Peyton Manning when he first came into the league? I think Peyton Manning I think, what did he break the record for interceptions by a rookie in a year? Like something crazy like that. Like, again, we got to give these guys time. And why we keep painting this label that he's not ready and prefacing it in this negative connotation, it's like he's not ready. Yeah, he's not ready. He hasn't played since 2019 when he was 19 years old. It's going to take some time. And we should all know that. And we shouldn't be putting this pressure on him that he has to be ready. If you're asking me, that is a setup of your own projection and your own devices, and you're setting yourself up to be disappointed. And that's where the double-edged sword comes, when people set themselves up to be disappointed and then they get mad because they had unrealistic expectations. Let's not be one of those people. But let's keep going and hearing what Steve Young has to say about Trey Lance.
Is he capable of, kind of the on-field recognition of, routes, who's, getting through the routes, who's open, anticipatory throwing, getting the ball out, and it seems like that he has that. The thing that you worry about the most about being ready, I feel like he has. Now, what I do worry about, but it's still early, so I don't know, I kind of a feeling, is this sense of accuracy, this sense that I know my brain knows where to go with the ball, but my arm's not necessarily, cooperating.
So there is a point that we can actually reference to. We can pull tape. We can look at examples. We can look at the tape to be able to identify the thing that Steve Young's talking about. We can worry about certain things like accuracy. The reason why we can worry about those things, because what Steve Young's saying is you don't have to worry about the processing. The processing is there. It's something that we've known about Trey Lance since he was coming out of North Dakota State. He was calling his own protections. He was calling checks at the line of scrimmage. He was calling different multiple plays and checking in and out of them. So he has the functional processing ability. What Steve is saying is, well, maybe the accuracy is a little TBD at this point. And of course, it's a little TBD at this point. They're retooling his mechanics. They're going through his mechanics. They're readjusting and they are retooling. So when you're going through that process of relearning how to throw, couldn't you functionally imagine how maybe the ball isn't going to go exactly where you want it to go because you are relearning how to throw? So when you're relearning how to throw, you're going to get a little bit in between what you used to do and what you should do. And when you get into that in between zone, guess what? The ball might sail on you, or the ball might dive on you a little bit. It happens. It happens sometimes. So with Trey, we understand that they are working through his mechanics, that is going to be a moving target in regards to his throwing motion. We talk about the hitch and the bounce that he has in his hitch and them trying to eliminate that. So we can understand that, maybe there will be some accuracy concerns right now with that, but also rationalize that that's part of the process. Like, if you're relearning how to do something, well, guess what? It's probably going to be a little rocky at the beginning when you're still trying to functionally do it. So, again, yes, I think what Steve Young brings and his concern with accuracy is valid because this kid is relearning how to throw. His mechanics are getting retooled. They're trying to really shorten up the throwing motion. They're really trying to eliminate the bounce in his feet. So that's two significant things that they are trying to accomplish in regards to his mechanics. So again, I've tried to explain this to people from an offensive lineman standpoint. For me, it took me an entire year to learn how to kick step properly. When you see those offensive linemen kick step and move backwards and then are able to move inside and just move like really nicely with good balance and wide, that takes a long time. And that's just a kick step. That's just your feet. So it's like, it's obviously balance and other things that come along with that. But when you're thinking about the throwing mechanics, you're retooling your mechanics while simultaneously trying to read a defense and understand where you need to go with the football and do all these types of things. It's like, it's just like, we're going to let the kid breathe a little bit, or are we just going to hold him to whatever expectation that we think he should be at? Corey says the first person I heard speak ill of Lance was Chris Sims. After his draft evaluation and ranking of Lance, I swear his narrative proliferated and hasn't been questioned or reassessed since. Well, not by me. I wouldn't say slander. I remind Chris, or I remind the person, whoever speaks about Chris Sims' rankings, Chris Sims ranked Kellen Mond above Trey Lance and Justin Fields. Just what? Kellen Mond? Really? Kellen Mond. That's where we're drawing our line in the sand. With Kellen Mond is a better prospect than Trey Lance and Justin Fields. Again, people hold his rankings in a high regard, but it's just like, at the end of the day, they're just rankings, and I don't know. I don't personally view Chris like a lot of other people do. I think, but I'm also one to not pay attention to other people's rankings. I don't base any evaluation off other people's evaluation. Now, I will ask, I will gauge, I will ask my guy Brandon Thorne about offensive linemen all the time, but doesn't mean we agree on everything. We've disagreed on multiple things, on multiple prospects. But I don't let his opinion, because I do hold his opinion in the highest regard, but I still hold my opinion in the highest regard. So the same thing with like Chris Sims. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, Chris got the Josh Allen thing right or whatever. And it's like, well, he's lucky that Josh Allen went to a place that was willing to grow with Josh Allen. Josh Allen wasn't a phenomenal quarterback year one. It wasn't a phenomenal quarterback year two. It took 2 to 3 years of development for Josh Allen to become what we know as Josh Allen is today, as one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and rightfully so. But what is the key with Josh Allen that no one ever seemingly talks about is the developmental process and the belief in which the Bills organization, the Bills deserve just as much credit for Josh Allen's success as Josh Allen. There's a duality between the way the Bills handled and managed Josh Allen, and on top of Josh Allen himself, because literally Josh was a piece of clay and they molded him and were patient, gave him the opportunity, they gave him the weapons, and then they watched him blossom and thrive. The same thing can happen with Trey Lance, but you have to stop pretending like he's ready again, like, or this notion that he has to be a top 8, top 7, top 6 quarterback right out the gate. And that's where it's like, what are these expectations that we're putting on the kid? Like, we can functionally talk about things that we are concerned about with Trey Lance. Like, we can do that, but we can also understand that with time, he can learn and develop the bad habits out of his game, because he has to play and he has to have the experience involved as well. So it's a great point from Corey. Great point. Thank you, Corey, for the super chat. But honestly, I agree. And that's what, whenever someone says like defends Chris, and I got a lot of guys that I respect greatly that will defend Chris, but I'm just like what are we doing? Like, why do we defend Chris Sims so much? Like, he's had some wild takes, man. I respect Chris. It's not like I think Chris is, you know, it's like all or nothing with Chris. I think Chris puts a lot of work. He takes it serious, and he does what he does, but doesn't mean I agree with everything he says. But let's go on and continue to hear what Steve Young has to say.
And that's the biggest to me, Rich, as we get into the Trey Lance kind of issues. That's the issue that I really want to focus on this summer, and as he gets into the fall playing, is his arm connect, because I do believe he has the ability to kind of find the open guys and processing power that you worry about. He has that, but can his arm do the work? And that's just that you can't work on that. You can work on it on the edges. You either have that or you don't have that, and that's the number one thing I kind of want to see at the ball.
Well, one thing I would consider is he doesn't have Deebo, although it does appear that.
Well, that's another look. Deebo did himself a little bit of a disservice.
So Steve Young says something very interesting to me about Deebo Samuel. We will get into that into a second, but I do want to close up the situation with kind of Trey Lance. And again, Steve Young even hints at there's a little bit of concern. Again, he's wanting to see that accuracy in the sense that it's natural accuracy. Like I will tell you, hey, say whatever you want. I am accurate. I know how to throw a football. I know how to throw it with accuracy on the. Oh, trust me. I wish I was a quarterback. I wish I didn't realize I could throw this well. But I know I have natural accuracy, whether it came from playing baseball a ton when I was a kid. I know that I can throw accurately on pinpoint command whenever I want. And there are people that have to work really hard to do that. And again, I am in zero way, shape, or form comparing myself to any NFL or any quarterback in general. I'm just saying I do have accuracy, and it's a natural accuracy. Not saying that would translate to playing in an NFL pocket and slinging it. Like, nah, that's not what I'm saying at all. But I can kind of rationalize kind of what Steve is saying about like it being natural, like a natural accuracy, opposed to forcing accuracy. And that's all that I'm trying to make a correlation there. And someone said something, and I want to clarify as well, because I agree with what he's saying. He's saying stop the crazy expectations. We really need to stop the Trey Lance, Josh Allen comparisons. And I agree with this comment because, one, I think the crazy expectations are weird. I understand them. I get them. You're the third overall draft pick. You were you traded insane draft capital to go up and get Trey Lance. So I get the expectations are going to be crazy. But the comparison that I'm making is a comparison of situation. I'm not comparing apples to apples players. I'm not comparing Trey Lance, the player, to Josh Allen, the player from you can look at their measurables, you can look at their traits, and you can make a natural comparison. There is a legitimate natural comparison there. That's not what I'm doing. I'm comparing situationally. I'm comparing the situation that Josh Allen was drafted to. Josh Allen was drafted to a situation where that team believed in him and they gave him the opportunity to build in real time. What we're dealing with and what we hear is like this. Again, they're now talking about this in the media. They are now mentioning, like, are the 49ers scared to start Trey Lance? Or they're literally using the word scared. And what do we talk about with what I want to see from Trey Lance? I want to see a environment of belief that Trey Lance is the guy. Well, guess what? By keeping Jimmy Garoppolo last year, there was no belief in a certain sense, that Trey could be the starter day one. Go and execute and do it. They kept Jimmy for whatever reason, and that's what happened. This isn't a natural comparison of traits versus traits, or like if Trey does this, he will be Josh Allen. That's not what we're doing. All we're doing is using a past example, because we can look at other examples where teams just threw guys out there and it went the wrong way. But I think you just have to understand that if you are going to play Trey, you have to give him the leash to make mistakes and be okay with that and coach him up and make him better. So that's all that I'm trying to make from that point. But I do want you guys to listen up. Listen to this little snippet from Steve Young about Deebo Samuel. And I want to talk about how you interpret what Steve is saying about Deebo, because I find it to be interesting, because we've heard reports about some of this stuff, but again, it's like it's hard to believe it. It's hard to like rationalize what is real, what's smoke, what's not. But again, I trust Steve more than probably any analyst right now when it comes to this situation, because when you think about Steve Young, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He is clearly tapped in with the San Francisco 49ers. He has access to all these people and can talk to all these people. Not only because he was a former player and a former franchise great, but that's his job. It's his job to give analysis. It's his job to talk about these things from his personal experiences. And I find it so let's listen to what Steve Young says about Deebo here. Let's see what. Just listen in. We might play it a couple times, but just listen in. You let me know.
A little bit of a disservice, whispers are a bit of a disservice.
He doesn't have Deebo, although it does appear that
Well, that's another look. Deebo did himself a little bit of a disservice. Whispers around how he felt about this whole situation, and so I just think that Deebo, whatever's going on, needs plays the don't know that no victims here. Like if you don't want to be here, say it. Why? What I'm doing, or not. But I mean, Deebo is for the 49ers. I can't think of a more valuable play.
One more time.
Playing is you worry about. He has that, but does the arm? It's just that you can't work on that. You can work on the ball.
Well, one thing I would consider is he doesn't have Deebo, although it does appear that.
Well, that's another look. Deebo did himself a little bit of a disservice. Whispers around how he felt about this whole situation. And so I just think that Deebo, whatever's going on, needs plays the don't know that no victims here. Like if you don't want to be here.
Did you guys catch that? Did you catch that? Does it? Is my mic all crazy? I apologize if the audio isn't phenomenal right now. It could theoretically be playing from two places. But so anyways, the point is Deebo, the way Steve Young he doesn't say it. He doesn't come out and you can't pull like a juicy quote off of it, but the whispers from Deebo and what he makes it insinuate as those whispers were about Trey. Am I hearing that the same way? Right? Are we kind of hearing that when he says Deebo did himself a disservice based on the whispers about potentially playing with Trey? Am I taking that out of context? Am I not hearing that correctly? Are you hearing it that way? I need a double check here. I need to double check because I'm not going to lie. When I first heard that, my ears perked up. I was like, whoa. Because we've heard reports. Like we've literally had like reports say Deebo doesn't want to play with Trey. And we're like, what the like, no, that's impossible. Like, how could that be? But again, I don't know. I found it interesting. I'm not going to try to look too far into it. But again, one more time, it was interesting. It was an interesting comment. One more time. They have to hit play.
Well, one thing I'd be considered is he doesn't have Deebo, although it does appear that
that's another look. Deebo did himself a little bit of a disservice. Whispers around how he felt about this whole situation, and so I just think that Deebo, whatever's going on,
Deebo did himself a disservice regarding whispers around the quarterback situation. Is that what I'm hearing? It caught my ear. It's still catching my ear as I listen to it again. Again, I'm not making a single conclusion off this. Shout out Steve Young. Fantastic way of coding this in a way that you can't like pull a definitive answer. Like, is this what he said? So shout out to Steve Young for being media trained, because again, he said it, but it's like he also left it up to our interpretation a bit. So again, I found it to be interesting. I was like, was that a direct shot at, was that Deebo whispering that he didn't like the quarterback situation, which is moving towards Trey? I don't know. But let's listen to hear what Steve Young continues to say.
Needs again plays and don't know there's no victims here. Like if you don't want to be here, say it. Why? What I'm doing, or not. But I mean, Deebo is for the 49ers. I can't think of a more valuable player in the league. If you had to choose somebody to come play for the 49ers, I think the number one most valuable player that you could choose is Deebo, if he's focused and in shape. And I want to make sure that Deebo is not focused and not in shape, and that's another story. But to me, getting Deebo in shape and focused on the 49ers with Trey Lance is vital, to say the least.
I agree. No doubt about
it. I mean, it is definitely an interesting end to that particular so again, I think it could be interpreted in a bunch of different ways, and again, yeah, you heard the slight shot. They have talked about Deebo's weight multiple times throughout his time with the 49ers. So I don't know. I trust Steve. Steve is someone that I have come to, again, not just, 49ers quarterback bias. I really agree with the things that he says. He's consistent with what he says, and it comes from just this is how it is. But yes, he was being cryptic. That the whole Deebo thing, like it it felt like he was pretty clear about his thoughts on Trey Lance. When it got to the Deebo situation, it got a little bit more interesting. So, and we've kind of swept the Deebo thing under the rug. Like we don't talk about Deebo too much anymore because we kind of have the thought process that Deebo's not going anywhere because he literally can't. I don't think the 49ers are going to trade him at this point. And he is unfortunately under contract, whether he wants to be a San Francisco 49er or not. He has to be here. He has to be here, whether he wants to or not. So it's obviously more of a foregone conclusion that Deebo Samuel is going to play next year, but it still sounds like it still hasn't been ironed out. It still feels like it hasn't been ironed out that, Deebo, yes, he's refollowed the 49ers and they kind of put the hysteria to bed. But that doesn't mean anything's actually changed behind closed doors. He could still feel the exact same way. He just didn't want to be a talking point in the daily news cycle anymore. And again, it was the main reason why I would have, like, if I was doing social media consultation for anyone, and again, we all know there is some truth to any publicity is good publicity, but not all the time. Yeah, and with a guy like Deebo, like you don't need everyone talking about your name 24/7 because you're already at the pinnacle of your reputation. So if they're going to be talking about you like the way they were, it knocks your reputation down, which goes against what you're trying to accomplish. So I would never, if I had to consult an athlete about like how to manage your social presence and your outward facing presence, don't bring on the attention that you are done because that's all anyone's going to talk about. You have to move a certain way. So obviously by refollowing them, it's look, no one talks about it anymore. It's that simple. That's the type of world we live in. That's it. So, but that doesn't mean anything has actually changed. He could still want to be traded. He could still be trying to force his way out. But we understand that the period for him to get traded this year is probably gone. And now we're figuring out, well, is he just going to play this year on a rookie deal? And are they going to let him walk? Are they actually going to extend him? That's going to be very interesting to see. It's going to be very interesting to see because I think while we have removed it from the forefront of our brains, I think it still remains that there's something there that's unresolved. Obviously, there's no contract that's been completed. We don't know if they're actually working towards a contract. We don't know if they've actually finally met to discuss contracts. We just assume that's what's going on because he refollowed the 49ers. That will be remains to be seen. So obviously lots of stuff back and forth with the whole, again, we had Peter King, who is, a bit of a mouthpiece, I think, for the 49ers front office. We've talked about his connection to Kyle and John Lynch many times before. We know he has a connection to that front office, and he gets information from them. and speaks accordingly about things. But Peter King went on to the Colin Cowherd show, I think it was today. And now what we're talking about is the real possibility of Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo being on the same team for one more year. Whether that's again more just, posturing in the media for better value, or that's a real thing. And you're absolutely right. He also said he believes Trey and Jimmy will be on the same team with Trey as quarterback one. Can I sit here and tell you right now? I want to go on record right now to tell you why that is the worst possible decision you can make for the health of your locker room and your football team in the relation to winning football games and the development of Trey Lance. I want to go on record right now to tell you, the listener, the viewer, why I think this is the worst possible decision that could be made by this franchise in the names of value. If the San Francisco 49ers head into training camp, not just training camp, week one, and we hear, because guess what? If Trey Lance is the week one starter, Jimmy is not practicing. He is not playing, I don't think. And so if you have Trey Lance as your starter, do we think this is like, what's the movie Men in Black? You guys remember Men in Black? Classic. Will Smith. Was it Tommy Lee Jones? He's got the little zapper, the little zapper thing. He puts on the glasses. He'll be like, oh, he'll just be talking randomly, and he'll be like, oh yeah, okay, zip, and just zap your memory. It's not like that in the real world. That locker room isn't going to just somehow forget that Jimmy Garoppolo is not the leader of that locker room. He is they're not going to just, oh, Trey's the starter. Trey's the leader now. No. Your backup quarterback will still own the locker room because he's been here. And guess what? They brought in Trey, and they didn't just gravitate to Trey. They gravitated more to Jimmy. So if you keep Jimmy as your backup, it would be a huge cluster. And let me tell you why it would be a huge cluster. Because if Trey Lance struggles, and it's not even an if, when Trey Lance struggles, which he will, which isn't a bad thing, but you have a roster that wants to win now, and you have a backup quarterback who is fresh off of leading the San Francisco 49ers to the NFC Championship, was a quarter away from winning a big part of that roster, a Super Bowl, and then Trey Lance shows signs of struggle, glimpses of struggle, maybe has a spell. Do you guys remember that spell that Jimmy Garoppolo had from Green Bay to Seattle to the Colts? Like that first half of Chicago? Like, could you imagine if Trey played like that? Could you imagine if Trey played like that? But you have a Jimmy Garoppolo who's quarterback 2, who the veterans already kind of want him to play anyways because he's their veteran. And could you imagine the pressure that would psychologically put on the quarterback who's trying to retool his mechanics, trying to master a playbook while looking over his shoulder while the entire team has come out and said before that they want Jimmy to start. Like that we talk about environment of belief, that's called an environment of doubt. You're creating environment of doubt around a young individual who's still learning, and you're setting him up to fail. Because if they ever had to switch and they said, you know what, Trey, we're 3 quarters in, we're getting blown out, we're gonna put Jimmy in, and Jimmy comes in and does Jimmy things, gets them close within a one score game, almost gets them back into it. Oh my god, it's over. They're gonna be like, it's gonna be start Jimmy. It's gonna be, it's a terrible idea, in my opinion, from that particular standpoint of trying to develop someone to be the next guy to take over, but you still now, like, imagine you're at your job. Imagine you're at your job and you have a boss. And then one day you guys switch roles. Like your VP or your owner comes in and says, "You know what? I'm going to put you into your boss's role, and now you're going to be your boss's new boss." How would that go? Especially if your boss and you didn't get along really well, or there's a little bit of tension and you just switch roles. Like, something tells me that it just wouldn't be ultra seamless. And it wouldn't be like, oh, it's like Madden, right? You just swap the rosters. Oh, it's a big deal. It's Madden. It's a big deal. It's not like that. These are people. These are people. Daryl says, thank you for the super chat, my guy. He says, not going to happen. If they keep Jimmy Garoppolo as a backup, that will what will that do to his trade value that they hope to get for him? Not happening, Brad. I hope you're right, man. I think it would be just a really bad situation from multiple angles. Like, and again, I haven't even touched on the value aspect of it. It's just the human element. It's the human element. Uh like, how many times can, especially with the temperature of this off season, again, what if we, again, not willingly talked about, but we've had to respond to how many reports that the 49ers don't believe in Trey Lance, or we've heard whispers, or we've heard this, we heard that, and this, that. Oh, now we're believing that they're keeping Jimmy Garoppolo because they don't believe in Trey Lance at all. Like, I understand the economic side of it. I understand Jimmy is an asset, and you don't just let assets walk for nothing. You have to get value. I think it's been pretty crystal clear that the 49ers were about this close to trading Jimmy, and he got the surgery. Again, is that a little bit of gamesmanship between player and, his old team for getting rid of him, for treating him? Because we had Jimmy Garoppolo do his little media tour like a month ago, and he talked about how he would never wish anyone to go through that situation that he had to go through last year. And it's like, so you're going to make Trey go through that now? You're just going to do the same thing, but perpetuate it times 2? You're going to go through a situation that one, didn't work. Oh, this freaking fly, bro. Hold on. Did I get him? I think I got him. I think I got him. You don't land on my nose during a live and you get to live. I'm sorry. You don't get to land on my nose and get away with it. We had to pause all operations there really quickly because you don't land on my nose in the middle of a live and get to live. How dare you? I don't see him. It's what you get. If he comes back, I'm going to be real disappointed. If he comes back, I'm going to be real disappointed. Oh, boy. Stupid, man. See, the fly is kind of like reminiscent of this situation. It's just annoying. It doesn't it will come poke you on the nose, poke you on the nose, and then fly away. And then you oh, you think it's fine. It's not going to bother me anymore. And that's what the situation's like. The situation's like that fly. And I want to smack it. My goodness. Congratulations, Fly. You've made it a part of our content today. You've made a cameo as part of our content today. Never would I have thought. So we'll see that fly in about 2 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised. It landed straight on my nose. It went boop. The fly just did one of those boop. He did that to me, and I felt disrespected by that. I felt immensely disrespected by that. My goodness. I think I got it, though. I want to see the proof. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Oh, baby, you got rocked. How's it feel? Feels bad. All right. But anyways, again, that's the new talking point. They're moving closer to that. They're moving closer to Jimmy being on the roster. Not only being on the roster, but being a backup and being okay with that. And we heard, Jed York talk about if it makes this team better, pause. It won't make this team better. Keeping Jimmy Garoppolo as a backup won't make this team better. Why? This team already loves Jimmy. And again, that is the foresight that Kyle had to make. He had to understand that by drafting and replacing Jimmy, he was replacing a team leader. The problem that Kyle didn't, maybe he understood, but maybe thought he could overcome, is that he could manage the quarterback position however he wanted with little to no pushback from his roster. The problem of empowering your guys, and it's not a problem. You should empower your guys to be leaders, to be vocal, to be able to push back on decisions. So it's a collaborative. Everyone understands. You know, I might not agree, but you can at least understand. The team pushed back. The team pushed back on Kyle last year. They pushed back on the Trey package. They said, "Get the Trey package out of here." So, are you kidding me? Why? Because it undercut the starter. Okay. That starter is still viewed that way by these guys. The only reason he's not the starter is because you, and when I say you, I say Kyle Shanahan in the front office, replaced him by what you paid to get. So it's not like the team was ready to move on from Jimmy. The problem was that it made them even more loyal to Jimmy. And I think that backfired on Kyle. And we're going to see how it works. That's why this year is going to be a crazy year. This year is going to be a crazy year if it's not a successful year. Like it's going to be wild. Like if you thought like the conversations last year were crazy, oh boy, I'm calling it now. You guys haven't seen nothing yet. It's going to be wild this year if they keep both quarterbacks. If either one of them struggles, if both play, oh boy. Hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a wild ride. Again, we want Alex Mack back, but if you go back to interviews that Alex Mack had last year, Alex Mack wanted Jimmy, and he straight up said it. He said, "Jimmy is our quarterback. Like Jimmy is the starter." Like he went on the radio and defended Jimmy, which again, when you're defending Jimmy is at the same time like a backhanded, it's not a compliment, but like it's almost like a slight to the other quarterback. Like that's why there's no win-win. It's not a win-win. It's a lose-lose. Don't, please don't. Daryl, shout out my boy Daryl again for the super chat. Appreciate you, my boy. He says, also, do you think they'll start next year with 4 quarterbacks? I don't. Kyle typically keeps 2 on the active roster. We've seen him keep 3 when it was Jimmy, Beathard, and Mullins. You also have to remember, though, Beathard was a 3rd-round draft pick that they traded up for. I think in all reality, I'm not sure Beathard lasts as long as he did on the 49ers. If the 49ers didn't trade up to get him in the 3rd round, like Russell Wilson was a 3rd-round draft pick. You know, Dak Prescott was a 4th-round draft pick. They traded up to get CJ Beathard in 2017. I think that's the only reason they kept 3. I think when you look at last year, I think last year is how they really wanted to do it, where you keep 2 quarterbacks, the starter, the backup, and the 3rd string rides practice squad. So that's how I imagine it to be this year. It's going to be Trey Lance. It's going to be Sudfeld, 2 quarterbacks. And again, look at the roster. They don't have the luxury of being able to carry 3 quarterbacks. They don't have that luxury. You spent what you spent on Trey. He's the starter. Sudfeld is the backup. You don't need a 3rd on the active. You can have a 3rd in Brock Purdy on the practice squad. And if you need to bring him up off the practice squad, then you do that. But you do not carry 3 quarterbacks this year on the active roster. There's too much talent. We have too much depth on the defensive line. We now have too much depth on the offensive line. There's going to be good offensive linemen who get cut. We have depth at wide receiver. We have depth at quarterback or corner back. That means if you keep 3 quarterbacks, which you shouldn't, but you're sacrificing a roster spot, a valuable roster spot for a third quarterback who will never play. So I hope they keep 2. I hope the third is on the practice squad, and that's how they operate. Because again, I feel like this is the deepest we've ever seen this roster, and we know already that they're going to have to cut guys that are going to get picked up by other teams and will have roles on other teams on their active roster. So I want to keep as many of those guys as possible. So yeah. If they kept 4, that would be pretty interesting. Let's see. Mack defending Jimmy was probably more professionalism. He didn't know Jimmy long enough to be deeply loyal. Also, easier to block for Jimmy than the new mobile Lance. I'll have to say this. I believe the interview was midway through the year. So there's plenty of time. You absolutely could have built a rapport in that amount of time. And again, as a former center, you build a strong relationship with your quarterback. Again, who are you snapping to? There's only 2 people on the entire offense who touch the ball every single play. And sometimes not even the quarterback. It's the center and it's the quarterback. I spend a lot of time with my quarterback, just like other centers do. You have to have a relationship there. Again, you go back to when Jimmy first got here, and it was Daniel Kilgore. Daniel Kilgore and Jimmy were like this. Quarterbacks and centers have a special bond. There is a working relationship that is much different than the other offensive linemen. Again, before practice, I'm going out with my quarterback. We're practicing on snapping. Sometimes we'll stay after practice. We'll practice on snapping. If my quarterback wants to run drills and he wants me to snap to him, I'll snap to him. So what does that translate to? Spend a lot of time with your quarterback. So I think it, and if you go back, and at least from my memory of that particular interview, he was. It felt like he was pretty adamant about Jimmy Garoppolo and all that stuff being the quarterback. Okay, so this is what he said. I found the quote. I'll read it right here. So Alex Mack said this in an interview with NBC Sports Bay Area when talking about Jimmy Garoppolo and all the stuff. He says, I think Garoppolo has approached it the right way, ignores the noise, takes care of what you have to. Every day he shows up ready to work and does the right stuff. He's the starting quarterback. He's acting like it, and that's that. I don't think there's any visual sign that there's a high pick right behind him at all. He's handling it the same way you'd expect a quarterback to. Let's see. Trying to see what else he said. But Mack was definitely for Jimmy. At least that's my take on it. So again, the overarching theme that we're talking about is we're talking about, keeping both. We're talking about keeping both. Again, I'm trying to find it. I'm not finding the exact thing that I was looking for. I don't think it was an NBC quote. It was a 95.7 on air hit. It wasn't through NBC Bay Area, so I'm not finding the correct thing while I'm looking for it. But like I said, it stood out to me pretty thoroughly. I talked about it on this show actually. But it's hard to find it while talking about it at the same time. But anyways, we'll see. We will see. All right. So, anyways, again, we've talked about this a lot. We've talked about how this will be a ongoing topic. It will be an ongoing point of emphasis regarding the situation. So the over, and to kind of re-wrap it up, is I just think it's going to be a bad idea. I think if you keep both, I think there's clearly dynamics at hand that they're not trying to divulge too much, and rightfully so. But I feel like the more and more this drags on, the more and more people are going to dig and things are going to come out. And obviously we don't have clarity right now, which I think is ultimately what we want. We're all operating as if Trey Lance is going to be the starter, but if Jimmy Garoppolo comes into training camp and they actually open it up as a competition, like, it's going to be wild. Like, it's just going to be wild because I feel like I feel like the roster will have a say on who they want as the quarterback, and that could be messy. So, like, to avoid that, right? We just want to ensure that that doesn't occur, and we just have a clean break, and we have a clean kind of switch off, this situation. But we'll see if that actually happens. But again, we'll find out. We will see. It's going to be a long road. Going to be wild. Going to Niner by Nature says, if Jimmy G starts this year, I'll become a Jets fan. It would be wild, man. It would be nuts. We already know how it would be. It would just be it would be a wild scenario. And I don't think it's something that we want, because we just want to be able to understand what is going on. But anyways, shout out to everyone that tapped in with me. Shout out to all the loyal SDS. Trust me, guys, we will get this back on track. I promise you. Appreciate everyone sticking by and vibing with your boy. Regarding all the drama that has been going on. So I appreciate all of you guys. As you know, if you haven't already, smash that like button. If you're just tuning in and you're okay, you like what you heard, hit that sub button. But I do appreciate all the SDS vibing with me today. We will be back tomorrow. Mack Watch continues. We'll figure out when he will be back. And again, trust me, I will not put anything out about Mack until I'm crystal clear. Crystal 100 million 50%. Crystal clear, I promise you. But we'll be back, guys. I appreciate you. We'll check in tomorrow. Probably have the state of the franchise. Yes, tomorrow with Aponte. So I'll check in with you guys soon. And hopefully we get clarity on a lot of these situations. So until then, I appreciate you all. You guys have a good night.